Welcome back to SevereMMA, and I'm joined today by Joe McColgan, who is taking on Kieran Lister at Cage Warriors 119 on Saturday, the 12th of December. Joseph, how are you today, my love?
Very good, miss. Very good. Just training away. I've actually got sparring in about 30 minutes, so no time like the present for a wee pre-fight or pre-spar interview.
We'll keep it short and sweet. So firstly, congratulations are in order. Congratulations on getting married. Now, I do have a bone to pick with you. That's a beautiful ring. Why
Thanks.
was Paul Hughes not invited?
Do you know what? COVID or no COVID, Paul Hughes is never going to be invited.
Oh wow.
Yeah, no, it was just Caitlin and I got married because you were postponing it time and time again, and then sorry, my table was shaking there. The restrictions kept changing, and the amount of people that we could have kept changing. So we just thought, you know what, we'll just do it ourselves with two witnesses, and it worked out brilliantly.
So it's not because I heard there was a rumor. It's because this budding bromance between Paul Hughes and Ian Gary. You were getting a bit jealous, no?
Yeah, you could say
I
that.
could say that.
But, what Paul says online and what Paul says in person are two different things. So I'm
Okay,
obviously
I see how it is now.
yeah.
So firstly, I wanted to get your take. Before we dive into your fight and things like that. Rhys McKee obviously had another fight in the UFC. A fantastic fight, like fight of the night in my book. But you've sparred with Rhys a lot, so I just wanted to kind of get your take on the fight and what did you see of it?
Well, it was very frustrating to watch. Obviously, it was a brilliant fight for the fans, but I'm not watching that fight as a fan. I'm watching that as like as a friend of mine that was in there, and I know what Reese can do. All my teammates, all Reese's teammates, anyone who trains with Reese knows what he can do, and I think just that maybe a couple of, like, wee small changes mid-fight or in the fight, and Reese would have destroyed. Like, I still think if they rebooked Reese against your man, that Reese would destroy him. I just, some nights it just doesn't go your way, and you train for 8 weeks for a 15-minute window, and Reese is doing that at the highest level now. So Reese, like, I know Reese, and he'll take that win, or sorry, he'll take that loss. He'll learn from it, and he'll come back even stronger. And he's at the top level of the sport now. It's where he belongs, and I can't wait to see him back out there again.
And obviously, like when it's a COVID-19 pandemic going on, you kind of have to take any opportunity that comes. But like, what are your thoughts on the matchmaking? Like from my perspective, I suppose it gave Reese both a massive opportunity, but it was also quite difficult in that he obviously went up against Khamzat Chimaev in his debut, and to put it bluntly, like Reese kind of got smashed. But so was most people who've gone up against Chimaev, and then he fights a 10 fight veteran in his second fight in the UFC. Like,
Yeah.
what we did you, were
So
you
he's had a hard run, but you know, before those fights, before the Kamzat fight, I actually talked to Reese the night that he accepted, and he told me, he's like, I'm going over there to clip. He didn't know who he was. He watched videos. He knew what the guy Kamzat was all about, or Hamzat, and he still, if anyone could beat Hamzat on the feet, that's Reese. All he needs is that one punch. And your Hamza came in and looked incredible as well. Obviously a tough fight. Reece knew he was up against it, but he still took the fight. He saw there was an opportunity there to get a contract and possibly a win over one of the biggest prospects in the world at the moment. Obviously, it didn't go his way. And then he came back, fought another hard, tough, high-level opponent, and it didn't go his way. But I mean, he's so young, and he'll learn lessons from those two fights, and he'll take that on board, and come back even stronger. So no doubt, on his third outing in the UFC, he'll be matched again against a hard guy, because everybody's hard at that level. But I think, if he comes out and he shows and displays and does what he can do, then he'll beat them all, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd love to see him. I mean, I hope that they do give him another fight. Obviously, the UFC, it's kind of hit
Sure,
or
they
miss.
have to.
You would hope that, especially given the matchmaking and the short notice of the debut, that he'll get another one. I know he's got, I think, a 4 fight contract, so obviously looking forward to the next one for Reese there.
Yeah.
Just the last time we spoke, Joe, in an interview was prior to the fight with Mason Jones. So we're talking almost what, a year ago now. What's it like? Kind of obviously you didn't get the win that night, and it was a massive opportunity fighting for the Cage Warriors title. What was it like in the aftermath of that? The aftermath of that.
Um, Mason Joe, that whole since pre that fight, during that fight, and after that fight was really difficult. Um, I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like it. You know, whenever I went into that fight, I was preparing for a southpaw wrestler. Probably the easiest style matchup I could ever have, and I carried that into my training camp, and I didn't train as hard as I normally would. I had also started a new job, so I was kind of sacrificing some training sessions because I needed to be working. So, but I didn't mind because I was fighting, someone I thought was going to, destroy handily. And then obviously 5 days out, it was 6 days out, I got the call that my opponent was out, and they offered me the title, and you can't say no to that. But I knew that I was up against it with Mason. Mason is probably going to be my hardest fight in the division. Not skill wise, just style matchup wise. He's a hard fight for me. I would have rather had the full 8 weeks to prepare for Mason, and I feel like if I did have the full 8 weeks, that I would beat him. You watch that fight back up before he lands the knee, like it's quite close. There's good exchanges, but I just wasn't myself. And I've learned lots of lessons from it, like never ever train specific for one opponent, or never ever not give 100% in training camp. Especially not at this level, the top of the Cage Warriors ranks. You need to be firing on all cylinders, ready for all opponents, and so that's a key lesson that I've learned and that I've taken into this camp. And yeah, that's all you can really do. I had a lot of time, off of training during COVID to reflect on it, and you can't get yourself down all the time about things like this. There's more important things in life. I just kind of taken the lessons, applied them to my training camp, and now I feel like I'm jumping out of my skin for this fight now. Everything's going so well in training that this is brilliant. So can't wait to get in there and show people what I really can do. What I've shown people before in previous fights.
And you mentioned there that maybe like it was very difficult, kind of pre, during, and post fight. Like, are there any kind of like doubts to creep in, or like how do you overcome that after a loss like that?
Are any doubts like after the fact, or are you talking about during or before
Yeah,
the
like
fight?
does that take, like, when you say that it was difficult to deal with, like, does it take like an emotional toll where you're kind of obviously that period of reflection after losing a title fight such as that, to where, like, are there any questions when you're like you're working a full-time job as well, and you've always kind of balanced the job in addition to fighting? Like, how do you approach your career now after, say, getting to that title shot and losing, and then having to pick yourself back up from that?
I just look at it like that was a wee cheeky opportunity the Cage Warriors threw my way, and it didn't go my way. But then I just kind of pick up where I left off before the Mason Jones fight. I was on a tear. I was climbing the ranks, and I was 1 or 2 fights off of a title fight, and I still feel like I'm in that position now. Just looking at the lay of the land here in Cage Warriors, there's not that many guys about. I feel like I'm still up there as one of the best guys in the lightweight division, and I don't think anyone else would argue with that. Any of my opponents either. And I got a good challenge in front of me here, and another undefeated fighter, um, who's a great record, good experience. When I get the win over him, then I'm right back up there. Like, I mean, I just look and see who's about, and there's not that many. It's me, Jack, Paddy Pimblett, Donovan Tesme, maybe, and you know, so it's still all to play for, and that's the way I'm looking at it. I've just had a wee roadblock or a wee road bump, and I'm over that now. I've learned my lessons, and it's time to get back on track.
And when you look ahead to the Kieran Lister fight, he's obviously, you mentioned there he's undefeated. How do you see that? Like, how do you analyze that fight?
I look through my topology record, and 50% of my fights are against undefeated fighters. You look at my amateur career, and like the majority of fights are against guys who are undefeated. I'm not talking
Or
about
I
guys.
think you said the last time was it Mason Jones. Mason Jones would have been the first undefeated fighter that you didn't win against.
Yeah, I was before Mason Jones. I was undefeated against the undefeated, and these are guys who are undefeated at amateur and pro. So I have a wealth of experience. It doesn't even factor into my thought process, the fact that they're undefeated. If it does, it's probably makes me feel like, not makes me feel, but I almost look at it as in they're not tested. And I certainly believe that Kieran Lister is not tested against the level of opposition that I've been tested against. So we'll see how good he is come the night when he's facing me.
And the lightweight title is on the line, so the vacant title obviously vacated by Mason Jones since he signed to the UFC. So Jack Grant's facing Agi Chardari. I don't think it's the main. It's the Shari fight. I think is the main event, right? The featherweight
Right.
title will be co-main event. Then you also have Dean Truman jumping up to lightweight. So it
Oh,
seems
is he?
that
I didn't know that.
yeah,
Is
no,
it?
it's
Is
just
it
he's
coming up?
fighting. Dean Truman's facing I forget his first name, Belhaj, the French fighter who Jack Grant beat last time out.
Okay,
That
yeah,
was
that's
announced. That was
right.
announced today. So it seems that like that Ian Dean and the Cage Warriors brass are really positioning that final night, the Saturday, as kind of a massive night for both the featherweight and lightweight divisions. Do you think that where do you see yourself in the division now? Can you get a title shot potentially off a win here?
Who knows? It depends on my method of victory. If I go out and I squeeze a win over Kieran, then probably in my head I don't feel like I'm ready for a title shot. I need to go out and I need to put him away, and I need to put him away in emphatic fashion. And you know, that kind of will inform whether I get a title shot or not. And if they don't give me a title shot, that's fine. There's plenty of other fights out there like that Dean Truman fight. That's a nice fight as well. Um, he's right up there as well. He's an unbelievable fighter, featherweight champion of Cage Warriors. He's right up there as well. And then obviously there's Paddy Pimblett, who's I think he recently had surgery, so he'll be coming back next year. Like I mean, there's just it's all to play for. I don't really care about the title shot. Right now, I'm just kind of focused on Kieran. Whatever comes after that fight, I'm there.
And then lastly, I wanted to talk about the your teammate Paul Hughes fighting Jordan Vucenic on the same card. So obviously, I'm sure you're like, what's it like when you're on the same card as Paul? Firstly,
No, Paul's really good to have about. He's got like a good energy. Don't use like using that word energy, like, but that's the only way to describe it. He brings positivity to the kind of changing rooms beforehand, gets everybody motivated. We work well together. I imagine that we're going to be probably fighting pretty close together. So a lot of our warm ups will be, just doing our flow drills that we do day in, day out. So it'll just feel like a normal training day for us. I think it'll be perfect. And, anytime I've fought on the same card as Paul, it's always been a good result. So I'm all for it.
and I think was it the Mehdi Ben Lacter fight? I'm pretty sure if I could be wrong here now, but you cornered Paul after your fight, did you, or
No,
did
I
you
can't for my fight.
before your fight? So how will that
Yeah,
work this time? Will you guys be able to still corner each other or no?
I'm fuck cornering Paul before a fight. I'll never corner a fight before my fight again. It was the most surreal experience. I've cornered loads of fights, but they've all been amateur. So anytime our club show has been run, like we've always been cornering amateur fighters. So when I went out to corner Paul for that BT Sports show, it was the first time I'd ever been that close to a professional fight, and there's just a difference in the speed, the ferocity, just the aggression, the athletic ability of both fighters. It was just different, and I was like, Jesus, is this what I do? And then I started thinking, holy shit, Caitlin's going to be over here watching this. Like, I mean, like my mom and dad are going to be watching this at home. I started having these thoughts, and I was going back into the gym
Coming
and
to
going,
Jesus moment, thinking, what have I got myself in here?
even though that was like my 18th fight, and it was my 8th or 7th professional fight. It was just strange seeing it. Uh,
Had you never cornered Paul before then?
yeah,
Or had you
I'd
never
never
cornered
I'd never
anyone?
covered any professional fight before that.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, but I
And
think
so,
I think
like, was it the
I,
case that it was like an adrenaline dump, and that kind of would negatively affect your energy? I know you don't using the word, but
no, it just distracts. When I did it in BT Sport, because I was on the main event, Paul was in the prelims, so there was about a couple of hours between our fights. Whereas I can imagine that we're only going to be a few fights apart, I would imagine. So I wouldn't be able to go out and corner someone and then fight myself 30 minutes later. Being in the corner, you invest a lot into that. And on fight night, I need to be selfish with my own energy and kind of, focus on me. And I'm sure Paul's the same. Like if he's sorry, if I'm fighting first, he's not going to come down and corner me. We've got Pat and Shannon there. That's all we need, really.
And I know you need to go sparring now, so I won't take too much more of your time. But just two more questions. So just give us a prediction for firstly Hughes versus Vucenic.
For Paul versus Vucenic,
Yeah, how do you see that fight going?
Paul by demolition. Paul mauls him. I think Vucenic's very good, but Paul's on a different level, and everywhere. If Paul wants to keep it on the feet, he'll destroy him. If Paul wants to wrestle him, he'll destroy him. And if it's on the ground, Paul will destroy him. If it's against the cage in the clinch, Paul will destroy him. Like people say that it's a good step up for Paul, but I know what Paul's capable of, and I still don't think that Paul's fought anyone like that's even came close to his level. Paul's just that good.
And then give us a prediction for yourself.
I never give predictions for my fights. I just know that I'm gonna win. I watched Kieran Lister versus Tom Mearns on the last trilogy card, and as soon as I watched it, I was texting my coach and I was like, "This is the fight to make," because they originally tried to get me to fight Tom Mearns. Obviously, Tom lost that fight. It was very close, but I was thinking, isn't it the Kieran Lister fight that has me written all over it? And he texted Ian Dean, and Ian Dean was all over it as well. So they got onto their camp, and the fight was made. So this is a fight that stylistically I really, really like. I'm very, very motivated for this fight. I'm training like an absolute demon. As I said before, I'm jumping out of my skin. I feel like it's going to be the best version of myself that's ever been in the cage. So I mean, take from that what you will, but I feel like it's going to be all in my favor wherever I want it. Probably on the feet, because like all my fights are on the feet.
And one more. So, seeing as this seems to come up in every single interview in Irish MMA, as an elder statesman now of the Irish scene, who is a bigger prospect, Ian Garry or Paul Hughes? No bias allowed.
I'll be objective. Who's the bigger prospect right now? It's
Yeah.
Paul Hughes. Um, in 2 years' time, who knows? They'll probably be both on the same level. It's just because Paul had more fights, you know. Ian's class as well. Like Ian's got a matchup, and Ian's gonna, I'll use the same answer that I used for Paul's fight as I will for Ian's fight. That's anywhere where Ian wants it, Ian will win that fight. They're just two crazy good talents, and the future is very bright for both of them. Being asked to comment on who's the bigger prospect, although it's hilarious, it's kind of pointless right now because they're both top prospects, and we should just be grateful that Ireland's got two.
Changes so much fight to fight too, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, 100%.
Well, Paul, I appreciate the time. I know you need to go now. I need to spar. So, yeah, looking forward to your fight. As always. What was that? Did I miss something here?
Yeah, you just said, well, thanks, Paul. And I was like, well, I didn't really see Paul here, but anyway.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe. Thank you, Mr. Joseph McColgan, for your time today. Always an entertaining fight. So everyone tune in on Saturday, the 12th of December. Hopefully I got the date wrong, seeing as I'm getting names wrong. Cage Warriors 119 live on UFC Fight Pass. Joseph McColgan will go up against. Do you like being called Joseph? I'd say you don't.
If you're my mum, yeah, sure, far
ahead. Okay, I'll go with Joe then. Joe McColgan taking on Kieran Lister, Cage Warriors 119. Thanks a million for the time, Joe. Appreciate it.
Man. Cheers, Andy. Thank you.